Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm here with a special guest, Kalani Song.
Hello.
Make sure to subscribe to her channel, link in description. Last week's video was about how the fourth dimensional people move in the fourth dimension, but this video goes deeper and talks about how they turn. This might be an easy concept, but at the same time, it's kind of hard. So the three ways that you can turn in our third dimension actually have names. If you get a cube and turn it sideways in the X fashion, that is called the H direction. If you turn it sideways in the Z fashion, that is called the P direction. And turning it forward and backwards is called the B direction.
Do H, P, and B stand for anything?
H stands for header, P stands for pitch, and B stands for banking. I do not know why they're called that, but just deal with it. There might be different names for them, but I'll just call them that because my Cinema 4D application calls it that.
Do you know any of the other names?
People might do hand movements or other things to explain these ways, but these are going to be the official names in this channel now. By the way, Cinema 4D is actually a 3D modeling software, kind of like Blender. It's not 4D, by the way. Anyways, I hope you remembered the names because I will end up using them as commonly as X, Y, and Z. So recall from my first video where I explained that a 0D, 1D, 2D, and a 3D space looks like, and what it's like to be in it. In a 0D world, you can't even move, so obviously you can't turn. In a 1D world, you can't turn either. If you were to turn, the object would disappear into the second dimension. But in a 2D world, you can turn, but you can only turn in the P way.
If you move in the P way, isn't it technically not turning? The X-axis is a straight line. You have no means of turning, right?
No. Imagine that you're in a game of Super Mario. You step on one of the turtles, and it gets flung. It spins and spins across the sky. The direction that it's spinning is the P direction, and it's technically turning. So P is the most fundamental way of turning, and it can only grow from that. The reason why you can't turn in the H and S way is because they could both cause the object to disappear into the third dimension, unless the object is a 1 times 1 point.
How come they disappear?
Well, you have to keep on watching this video to understand. So why suddenly in the third dimension there are 3 ways to turn instead of 2?
I still don't quite understand how they turn. Could you explain to me better?
Yes, just keep on listening. What is the pattern? Well, in order to find the pattern, we must use what we know about the relationships between the axes and find out how many possible ways they could turn. So H will only be possible with a Z and X axis. This is because when something is turned along the H way, the Z will obviously change, but the X will also technically change. If you think about it, in order for turning to be possible, you need at least 2 dimensions. P will require a Y and a Z if you think about it. So the second dimension lacks a Z, so they both won't be possible. Basically, when you have no dimensions, which is 0D, you can't turn because there aren't 2 dimensions. And that is the same with 1D. Then, in the second dimension, possibilities sprout up because there is an X and Y. Once the Z is added, every single possibility of pairs between the 3 dimensions becomes a way that you can turn. Or you can turn with XY, which is P, XZ, which is H, and YZ, which is B. You can't do ZY or YX because that is the same as YX and XY. I mean YZ and XY. Now we know the pattern. If you add the Y-axis, the W axis, we can now turn in far more directions. You can now turn in XY, XZ, YZ, XW, YW, and ZW. I'll just call the XW one M, the YW one L, and ZW one G. Don't ask why I picked M, L, and G.
Why did you pick M, L, and G?
Emoji lover! So you get the pattern. For every new dimension added, the amount of times you can turn will be the possibilities of pairs between the dimensions. To make it easier, for every new dimension added, you add the new dimension -1 to the amount of ways you can turn, and all of the negative ways of turning don't count. because 0 will be -1. And I'm just going to say this in a different way, so it will be even easier. So 2, the second dimension would be 1 way of turning. The third dimension will be 3 ways of turning, which is 2 plus n. 4 will be 6 ways of turning, 3 plus n. And the fifth dimension would have 10 ways of turning.
What does n mean?
N is the amount of ways you could turn in the previous dimension. It just stands for that. So the third dimension, it would be 2 plus 1, or 3 ways you could turn. You could keep on going. The 10th dimension will have 55 ways, the 100th will have 5,050 ways, and the 1000th dimension will have 500,500 ways. But we'll get to those later. If you didn't understand the concept of turning, then feel free to comment and I'll explain to you more clearly. But if you did, then please leave a like and subscribe.